No pony calls me boneless. Right, boneless?
Pinkie Pride is one of the most highly rated and well-remembered episodes of MLP FIM, ranking in the top 20 episodes of all time, out of My Little Pony's over 200 episode catalog. Growing up, I remember absolutely being obsessed with this episode. It features Pinkie Pie, who is my favorite out of the main 6, special guest star cameo Weird Al Yankovic, whom I adore, and to top it all off, the episode is even a musical. So given the nature of the episode being a musical, it does operate thematically and narratively different from your average episode, with slightly altered pacing and a lot more dramatization. So with all these factors being taken into account, how does this episode stand 11 years later? To say the least, we've got lots to cover.
Parties are no picnic! Oh, I like a nice picnic party.
I admit that while Pinkie Pie is my favorite of the bunch, I do recognize the flaws in her character, as all the other ponies have. Twilight is the main character of MLP, and I guarantee you she comes to mind first when anyone thinks of friendship as magic. However, back in 2014 and years previous, Pinkie Pie was Hasbro's golden girl for merchandising.
I'm Pinkie Pie! Hop on my train!
Oh, Millennium Boys, you better not put me on the track. Oh, Millennium Boys!
Because of this, it always appeared as though the writers had to keep her character a lot more static compared to the other ones, such as Fluttershy, who received tons more emotional development, or Rarity, with her plethora of overarching narratives and stories that contained a lot of world building. Pinkie Pie, on the other hand, all she got was the duty to be the designated singer for every time the show had to meet its quota for generic pop songs, at least in the earlier seasons. Due to these narrow-minded aspects of her character, and for the fact that she is often not aware of her situational surroundings, Pinkie Pie can often come off as ignorant and annoying. But only I can say that. You can't say that because she's my favorite and not yours. In all seriousness, we witness this a lot with her character, especially when she's not the main focus of an episode. Kinda like Rainbow Dash and her arrogance, which, boy is she something in this episode. Another main issue I have with Pinkie Pie, just this last thing before we move on to the actual episode. While she is undoubtedly the best party planner in Equestria, all of her parties are kind of generic. They're always just this high energy, snacks and sweets, loud music with balloons and streamers. While obviously she knows a lot of small facts about her friends, given that she has the Pinkie Party Cave, she never actually tailors these parties for a specific experience. If Fluttershy asks Pinkie Pie to plan her a party, she wouldn't want a typical Pinkie Pie party, and I want to believe that Pinkie Pie wouldn't throw her one like that, but it's not like we've ever seen otherwise. At the end of the day, it's easier for me to blame Hasbro for these present issues than grapple with the fact that my favorite character is just slightly not well written. But only I can say that. You can't say that because she's my favorite and not yours! Pinkie Pie's character does positively shine throughout this episode, as you'll witness, albeit at a fairly fast pace, cycling through several emotions, which elevates the overall narrative as the friendship lesson is actually woven into the story and doesn't feel like an afterthought tacked in at the end. With that all out of the way, let's briefly go through the episode. This is Pinkie Pride.
A pair of party pony planners in Ponyville? What could be more perfect?
The episode begins somewhat unconventionally for MLP, opening in Appaloosa and going for this Wild West theme, which will eventually become significant later. We're introduced to the Pony Cheese Sandwich, played by Weird Al Yankovic, as we witness something similar to Pinkie Pie's Pinkie Sense, being Cheese's cheesy sense. Those were all words I just said, highlighting their commonality, as he remarks the sense for a party to be planned in Ponyville. We then open with our first song of many, and while I am not a music critic by any means, I do find the songs to be rather catchy and fun this episode. This sequence especially has a lot of silly moments, like when Pinkie Pie asks a paint vendor for all the colors in the rainbow, he pours the paint directly into her bag, resulting in all the colors becoming this one brown pool. Pinkie Pie, as we know, has the ability to defy physics and even break the fourth wall. However, it's funnier to me when reality catches up with her, and she often doesn't. This is just one of those things you have to appreciate as an idea or attention to detail that somebody had to write out and suggest, all for a quick blink and you'll miss it moment. It turns out that today is Rainbow Dash's birthday and anniversary from when she decided to move to Ponyville, with Pinkie Pie giving Rainbow Dash the Pinkie Party promise for the best birthday ever. This special occasion also acts as the reason why cheese sandwich is in Ponyville. However, given that this is something which occurs every year, it doesn't necessarily provide a legitimate explanation as to why cheese sandwich only sends to the party now, or why Rainbow Dash would only mention this fact now, unless the events unfolding ever since the first season all happen to take place within a year of the ponies each meeting each other, but at this point, I'm probably reading too deep into it. So Cheese holds this Wild West demeanor right up until Rainbow Dash asks him a specific question, which leads into our next song.
So what do you say, party planners?
I don't think so. I know so! After all...
The super duper party pony that pony is me.
As I previously mentioned, I'm a huge fan of Weird Al, so naturally, I find this song incredibly charming and wonderful. From an outside perspective though, for someone who might not even know who Weird Al is, I still think it holds up pretty well. Cheese matches Pinkie Pie's wacky and zany energy, but really in his own special way. Pinkie Pie kind of ad-libs throughout the song here, which comes off as a little annoying, although I think that might have been what they were going for. This is where some of the cracks of the episode start to form, such as the towns-ponies and main six being so distracted that none of them even acknowledge Pinkie Pie's existence. I just honestly find that to be a little unrealistic. This leads to Pinkie Pie having some sort of imposter syndrome or identity crisis, which if you ask me, is completely valid. Sure, she's being a little emotionally immature, but let me ask you, how would you feel if there was somebody that happened to present themselves as better than the one thing that you are really good at, and all your friends and peers start ignoring you over it because they're all absolutely obsessed with this person? I would absolutely crash out over this. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have in the past. You're telling me not one of Pinkie Pie's friends is actually gonna check in with her? Especially after Rainbow Dash says this?
Pinkie Pie's parties are fun and sweet and all, but now this party's gonna be...
Epic?
No offense, Pinkie. None taken.
Well, actually, Twilight checks in with her, but apparently the so-called Princess of Friendship can't read emotions.
Yes, indeed.
Oh my god, bro.
Pinkie Pie quickly bounces back, however, as we get some pretty stunning animation. I know I mentioned during the first song that there were a lot of quick and witty moments. In that regard, the episode's overall animation is fantastic, with a lot of great character expressions and fluid movements. We get a call back to an earlier line in the episode.
Oh, I don't think so. I know so.
As Pinkie Pie challenges Cheese Sandwich to a goof-off. It's a pretty entertaining scene with all the characters acting incredibly dramatic when the stakes really aren't that high. Well, I suppose from our perspectives. To Pinkie Pie and Cheese, this is their livelihood. We also continue our mini Western theming, as the goof-off takes the stylization of an old Wild West showdown. Also, Spike gets a voice line this episode.
Are you kidding? Twilight can find a rule book for everything!
Shh. The goof-off is, as you'd expect, super duper wacky and silly, with Pinkie and Cheese going back and forth on who can out-goof the other, with Rainbow Dash eventually picking the winner, which will decide who will get to plan her birth-anniversary party. Now, realistically at this point, some ponies should have stepped up and said, why don't you both just plan the party together? But obviously we needed to move the story along. It's a fairly amusing scene. There are a couple of iconic moments, like when we cut to live action, and a scene that made me audibly laugh out loud when Cheese Sandwich started singing the Smile song. I honestly forgot about this moment, and it was super funny to witness again. Pinkie Pie eventually notices during the battle that Rainbow Dash is actually not having a good time at all, resulting in her rainbow eyes moment. So she decides to forfeit the competition, believing she has broken the Pinkie Party promise, which is yet again another callback earlier in the episode. Honestly, some pretty tightly knit writing. So for some reason, Pinkie Pie decides to leave town, even though that was never actually established within the competition. You know, a girl likes to be a little dramatic. This is right before the main six catch up with her and start to reassure her, which is what they should have done since the beginning, but we're following musical logic here. As we then get our moment of retrospection, with Pinkie Pie admitting that she was acting foolish. We then follow this moment by getting to hear about Cheese's backstory, as he grew up as an outcast in Manehattan, cool reference to a previous episode this season, and felt rather lost as a child. This was until he stumbled into Ponyville during a massive party. In that moment, he felt as though he had found his true calling, wanting himself to be a party planner across Equestria. As it turns out, it was actually Pinkie Pie herself that was throwing the party, which inspired Cheese, meaning that without her, he never would have found his calling in life. We even see Cheese obtaining his trademark rubber chicken boneless during this occasion, in a really touching moment. But in retrospect, makes Cheese Sandwich kinda look even more like a jerk. Like, if he had really admired and respected Pinkie Pie, why was he just completely ignoring and outshining her, rather than just trying to work with her from the beginning? You'd imagine that even if he didn't say anything initially, at least when Pinkie Pie challenged him to the goof-off, he could have at least mentioned something. Just gotta keep telling myself we're working with musical logic. So Pinkie and Cheese decide to plan the Rainbow Dash birth-anniversary together, and we wrap up the episode with an incredibly lame generic pop song, sung by Pinkie Pie. Cheese decides it's time to move on after Rainbow calls the party epic, and he departs after giving Pinkie Pie the rubber chicken boneless, which appears to be our magical rainbow item for the episode.
I never did get that pony's name. Cheese Sandwich!
And of course, we had to get one more Pinkie Pie dumb moment. But only I can say that. You can't say that because she's my favorite and not yours! See, I can make callbacks too. Pinkie Pride is by no means a perfect episode. There are several flaws, mainly with the character consistency, and at times the pacing is awkward at best. That being said, if you love Pinkie Pie, and if you love Weird Al, you'll no doubt love this episode. There are moments throughout where she honestly excels, and having Weird Al face off against her is one of the coolest things the show has ever done. He's a wonderful performer who took his role as Cheese Sandwich as seriously as he could, and you can tell he respects the material. Before the series ended in an AMA, he stated that he was willing to come back to voice the character, and just a few months back, he even posted a picture of him standing next to a Pinkie Pie statue. If you can look past some of the clumsiness and shortcomings of the episode, then you'll without a doubt be in for a real fun time. With that, there is only one more part to cover on this journey, so join me next time on the series finale of our Rainbow Keys analysis, as we look at Twilight's Kingdom. As always, thank you for watching, and take care.